We only wanted to get to older people to know they don't have to sit in a chair. They can get out and do things. That was our goal. Not to be on TV or anything like that. We wanted to get the older people up on their feet.
People are hungry for examples of a life well lived in at every age, because we're all on that conveyor belt of time.
What do you do when you come out as LGBTQ and love the outdoors? What do you do when you see the outdoor space ruled by older white cis men and desire a diverse community of outdoor lovers? Accept it, change it, create it. I am Justin Yoder, and this is LGBT Outdoors. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the LGBTQ Outdoors podcast. I have Patrick hosting with me today for a special episode that we are going to get to in a little bit.
Hey, everybody.
But before we do that, we have new merch that's finally up on the store.
We do. And we're excited about that because when you rename your organization to be more inclusive, your old logo no longer is suitable. So we're going through and updating our entire merch store, and that'll be growing, I think, as time goes on. But it's back out and rolling.
We're working on getting some new designs up and adding to it and whatnot. But yeah, everybody can go over and check out the store. I've got our new classic blue t-shirt with our LGBTQ Outdoors logo. So that's fun. And it's always fun to represent the organization when you're outside. So
yeah. And it's even more fun to find like LGBTQ Outdoors merch or stickers in the wild. I forget where we were, but we saw a sticker the other day. And we were like, yay, that's exciting.
We're growing and expanding.
Yep.
So that's fun. Let's jump in with our guest today.
Yes.
So we have Brad Ryan and Grandma Joy, both from Grandma Joy's Road Trip, joining us today. Super excited. We've had them on before. Brad's become family to us, and it was an instructor at LGBTQ Outdoor Fest last year. And is going to come back this year with Grandma Joy. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But welcome to the podcast, and give us a introduction to who both of you are.
Well, my name is Brad Ryan.
I'm Joey Ryan.
Yeah, and we are just a normal grandma-grandson duo from Southeast Ohio. We're kind of like, culturally, we're more West Virginia than Ohio, which some people will make fun of us about. But, we had a really, I attribute a lot of my love of the great outdoors to my grandmother, because my earliest memories when I was a little boy involve being exposed to wild animals and wild places because she took me there. And, our life went through a variety of twists and turns along the way. My parents got divorced. We became estranged for almost a decade. I went off and hiked the Appalachian Trail, thinking a lot about how I wanted to, come back to my life post-trail and mend fences and hopefully minimize future regret in terms of just keeping that estrangement alive. And we went hiking at our local state park, the same park where she took me when I was a little kid, and she told me she'd never seen a mountain, and the seed was planted then that I wanted to go on an adventure with her. But then I got accepted into graduate school and then vet school, and 5 years later, we finally take a road trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. She climbs a mountain and goes camping, smiling the entire time, really blowing kind of shattering my expectations or my set of assumptions about what life at 85 looks like. Mm-hmm. And then we just organically came up with this plan to travel to all 63 U.S. national parks. It took us 7.5 years to do that. And in May of 2023, she broke the world record as the oldest person to begin and complete a complete circuit of all 63 U.S. national parks. Awesome. Her Instagram followers got bossy and demanded that I continue traveling with her. So she already had a passport because we needed one to go to the National Park of American Samoa. And while we were there, we traveled across the international date line to Western Samoa, and those were our first and second passport stamps. And then, we just sort of said, well, we've got a passport now, so let's try to see as much of the world as we can. And so the 7 continents became the new goal. 7 seemed less daunting than 63.
Yeah.
I bet.
I love how he starts off with just a normal grandson and grandmother.
Right.
Like, yeah, I think that's about anything but normal. Maybe to you, you seem like it, but to us, it's just like you started off normal. There you go. I would love for you to share a little bit about that first camping trip that you did in the Great Smoky Mountains, and because when you went, Grandma Joy, you weren't out at that time, right?
That's right. So the first U.S. National Park road trip, I was in my 4th year of vet school, and I reached out to her during a low point for me, mental health wise, and for our university. I don't know how much forgive me, Justin. I don't remember if I shared this story last time or not. You'll have
That's okay. It's worth sharing it all again. So it's good.
Yeah. So, type A classic perfectionistic personality types tend to make their way into professional programs like vet school. And that can lead to some adverse mental health outcomes for a lot of people, either in vet school or later on after they graduate. The same holds true for pharmacists, medical doctors, a variety of these sort of like high achieving academic professional programs. So a second-year veterinary student committed suicide at the Ohio State University College of Veterinary Medicine the morning that I arrived that I arrived on campus for my radiology rotation, and that was sort of my I had to confront what had been going on inside my head at that point. It was a wake-up call that thoughts can turn into action in a very abrupt way if you don't take it upon yourself to change course. So I remembered the joy that I experienced when I was on the Appalachian Trail, the version of myself that believed I could do anything when I was standing on the summit of Mount Katahdin at the end of that journey, and also coupled with that lingering anxiety that I felt about if I don't eventually make time and space to get her to some wild place to see a mountain. At 85, you never know, and I might be living with some serious regret for the rest of my life that I didn't pull it together and make that happen. So it just was this. I don't know. I felt helpless. I felt like I needed to do something to take control of my destiny. So I called her and asked her if she wanted to go on a road trip with me so that she could see her first mountain. And in classic Grandma Joy style, she was just absolutely game for anything. And she said, "What time are you picking me up?" And she came up to the teaching hospital parking lot, and we left in the evening and drove through the night to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And they want to know more about what that first camping trip was like.
It was wild. 2:00 in the morning. He's trying to put the tent up, and I'm chasing him with the umbrella. We put the tent up and got the mattress blowed up. And then the plug came out, and I had to climb underneath the mattress and hold it up with my feet so he could blow it back up. And then I couldn't get out, and I got to laughing, and I said, "Well, this is like a Laurel and Hardy movie." Out from underneath of there. And I kept falling off of the daggone air mattress, so I said, "Forget that, I'm sleeping on the ground." So that's what I did. And believe it or not, the next morning the rain had stopped.
Yep.
Wow.
I love it.
Definitely sounds like plenty of laughing goes on these trips, and always, even though I know there's plenty of challenging times, there's a lot of joy that goes along into these the trips as well. But it was on that first trip that you learned that Brad was gay, and right at the beginning, you accepted him and loved him and had no issue with it and loved him like any family member should.
Yeah, she just sort of randomly blurted it out while we were sitting around the campfire at 11 p.m. at the end of our first night after the rain stopped. And I guess my secret wasn't very well kept. And I said, I didn't think you knew. And she's like, Brad, I'm old. I'm not senile. That was kind of the, oh yeah. Okay. Touche. So, yeah, but it was important because it was, like I said, because it was meant to be a one and done camping trip. It was just meant to be, let's go to the Smokies. Let's see how I thought it was going to be maybe not the most enjoyable experience for her, to be honest, sleeping in a tent and so forth. But because it was so magical, and because I learned that I did have this acceptance and this unconditional love within my paternal family line that I didn't think existed. I didn't think that we would have a relationship without me remaining selectively closeted from her. And she can speak to the rest. But I mean, my take on it is that she sensed that there were multiple things weighing me down at that point in life. And that was one thing that she could control, and one variable that she could remove, one stone that she could remove from my shoulder to ease the weight and help me, move forward with a lot more self-confidence and just a sense of belonging within the family. So, and that's a big piece of why we kept going. I think that had she, I don't know. It's hard to say how things would have turned out otherwise, but the truth is that I learned something about her that allowed our relationship to become more solid, and that created a foundation for us to further the adventure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that so much. Just seeing your guys' relationship, it's just incredible. And for anybody that's listening, just as a reminder, we do have our episodes on YouTube now, so that anybody that wants can be watching. And I would highly recommend this would be one that you more watch, because you just fall in love with Grandma Joy as you see her and you get to hear her stories. But what was it then from that trip then that you decided to do another trip, and how did that evolve into Grandma Joy's road trip?
Well, the short answer is that I graduated from vet school, and I spent my first year in New Hampshire, and just, it just wasn't, it was a job. You spend your whole life trying to become this thing, whatever. If the dream is a career, an award, some sort of status, and then you get it, and then you realize, that doesn't really fill my cup completely the way I thought it was going to. And so there was just this recognition that I was most happy in my life when I was hiking, when I was in the great outdoors, when I was doing this with her. And when I dropped her off at her house at the end of that trip to the Smokies, she was crying on the porch and thanking me for taking her on this trip. And I thought, I'm going to go on with my life. And now she's back to what existed before, which was a daily walk through the Duncan Falls Cemetery. And so I just thought, no, this was mutually beneficial. So I thought I was just going to take her to Yellowstone. It was just going to be a second road trip. And then I learned about the U.S. national parks in the process of planning for that one trip. And then I got greedy. Like, no, let's go out for a month. I'll quit my job, and then I'll allow some time in between when my next job starts, so that we can go see. I wanted to see all the most iconic or the most famous national parks. So Yosemite, Yellowstone, Glacier, Zion, Joshua Tree, Grand Canyon, and more. But it was a goal at the beginning. Just, hey, why don't we just chip away at this, see how many we can see. But a lot of them felt impossible to reach. And seemingly impossible things are possible. I just didn't think that it was going to end up like being a viral story the way it was, because we didn't have any intention of that.
And this is,
we started out, we only wanted to get older people to know they don't have to sit in a chair. They can get out and do things. That was our goal. Not to be on TV or anything like that. We wanted to get the older people up on their feet.
Sorry about that, Grandma. Yeah. She's had a lot of, we got a lot of attention for that reason, though, I think, because people people are hungry for examples of a life well lived in at every age, because we're all on that conveyor belt of time, and so we don't want to. Ideally, hopefully, we can all get to a place where we don't look at aging as a limiting factor.
Yeah. And like, what a gift to be able to do that. This is probably the only time where I strongly encourage greediness.
Yeah.
Because like the aspirations that just sort of like sparked up from your first experience led to like not only your incredible series of road trips, but also like people getting to see and like proof positive that like age is simply a number. And intergenerational like familial relationships can still be a thing. And so you're busting stereotypes and busting expectations of what the norm is, whatever that is anyway, these days. I just want to keep listening to y'all talk.
Well, it's
like, this is incredible.
I think goal setting is one of the ingredients to pushing back against let me rephrase this. I mean, people will ask all the time, like, what's your secret? You're 95 and you don't mentally, physically, and obviously what we're seeing you do every day on Instagram does not comport with what I think of as a 95-year-old lifestyle or a 95-year-old. So what's the magic sauce for that? And so I think that, the idea of saying, well, let's just try, even though we don't have enough money or vacation days or any of these or any contacts within the National Park Service to be able to go see the 8 national parks of Alaska or go to American Samoa or Hawaii or the Virgin Islands or any of these hard to reach places. But it's not, even if it seems out of reach, it's the mere fact that you set this ambitious goal that you're working towards that keeps you actively engaged with your life, especially at this age. So I'm a big believer in how devastating that can be to a person who feels invisible, who feels that the best days of their life are behind them, that there's nothing to look forward to, that if you can, and that we weren't consciously thinking of that, but it was this idea that no, we're going to have connection. We're going to go out to the world. We're going to make new friends from all over the world, all over the country. We're going to fill our life with experiences and adventure that reminds us that we are still alive, and that when you go home, and the door closes behind you and you're back in your house watching TV, that you're not falling apart mentally because there's nothing else to look forward to, that there's an adventure coming up in a few months. And so I got to keep my daily walks up so that I'm ready for that trip and so forth. So all those things kind of come together. If you have connection, you have goals that you're working towards, you have physical activity every day, and that you have purpose. I think you bring that all together, and then 85, and now she turns 95 in less than 3 weeks.
2 weeks, 18.
Oh,
wow.
Happy early birthday. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so
I had to make it.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good just to be able to get out of bed every morning.
Yeah.
Another day ahead of me. Wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the way you kind of have to look at things.
That's a great way to look at it. Grandma Joy, what did you think when Brad started talking about doing international trips?
So what was your reaction to when I started saying we're going to go overseas?
I thought, well, we can give it a whirl. If it don't work, we can get back home. No big deal.
Yeah. Nice.
That's a great attitude to have about it. That's a great attitude to have about anything in life, really, right? It's worth a shot, at least.
It just in simple terms, the willingness to say yes.
For sure.
like to something scary, to like a big adventure, to a small adventure, to something that's foreign and new and probably uncomfortable, and to climbing under an air mattress so that your grandson can blow it up, in the rain, like the first time you go camping, like just the simple willingness to say yes, I think has made all the difference. Like, what a lesson.
Yeah, definitely. What was your first international trip and some of your other bigger trips that you've done? And I know that I think it was maybe your second to last trip was Antarctica, and we're going to talk more about that a little bit towards the end. But I'd love to hear some more about your international travels, because it comes back to what Grandma Joy was saying, just getting out there and doing it and being active and getting out of the chair. But I feel like there's so many people that get to that age where they just feel like they have a hard time going to a national park here, let alone traveling internationally.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where, I mean, it was uncharted territory for both of us, because I've traveled internationally, but taking somebody her age who can be prone to, I mean, yeah, if she gets injured or has a complication from, blood clot from flying for so many hours overseas and that kind of thing, it's a very it's a different level of consequence when you're like in Antarctica, where there's no civilization and you would have to be medically evacuated by a helicopter that would take, I mean, it's just all these variables that you would never have to really worry about as much if you were traveling by yourself at a younger age. It's been something that it always sort of ratchets up the logistical planning that we have to do, and all the different scenarios I have to think through before we ever take off. But I'm sorry if I forgot your question. I rambled too long.
No, you're totally good. I was just curious about, getting started with the international trip. Which one was your first one? And
I'm sorry, Justin.
No, you're totally fine. And like what that was like, being able to do that for especially somebody that was older, because like you were saying, like once you get older, travel can become harder and there's more challenges that go along with it.
Yeah, so you have to plan accordingly and seek a lot of advice from people who've been, down similar roads, and of course speaking to her doctor about what we can do to minimize risks and so forth. So we don't get to sleep a lot on these international flights because we're up every hour doing laps, and she's on blood thinners, so we have to be more careful about falling and so forth. But she has to be on blood thinners to minimize the chances of clots in her lungs and all these things. So the first trip was when I think we had some confidence that we could do this. I mean, flying, but we also broke it up. So we flew to Hawaii, spent a little time there before we flew on to the National Park of American Samoa. So even though that's a U.S. territory and it's part of the United States, technically, they have their own immigration system. So that's why she ended up with a passport at age 91. And then we were there and everyone said, well, it'll never be cheaper to get to Samoa. And so we flew across the international date line on right before my birthday. And then we flew back after my birthday ended in Samoa, and I got to relive my birthday in American Samoa. So I turned 43 for 48 hours.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we were looking at this passport, and I thought, I think that's what I learned. Like, I had no plan for how we were going to get to these places. It was just, there was a lot of media attention around having finished this big goal of the 63 U.S. national parks, and her breaking this age record for having done so. And so I'm just like, well, we manifested this against all odds. We pulled it off. So let's, we're not, don't say Branson, Missouri. No offense, Branson, but what's next? Yeah, we're going to do the 7 continents. And now here we are, less than two years later, and we've been sponsored by corporations that have gotten us to 5 out of 7 continents. So you just know, and I realize that's a huge privilege, but at the end of the day, though, it's still something that we manifested by putting this inexplicable idea into the universe and then be very intentional about it, being very committed to it. And, so that's what's happened. So I think, it's funny because my first international trip was in 2001, May of 2001. And I wanted to go to Africa my whole life. And she was the one who took me to the airport when I was, I was 19 and I turned 20 over there. And I remember being so sad that, I was driving in these herds of elephants and wildebeest, and how much that would have meant to her to see something like that. And in my mind, just knowing her socioeconomic status and all the things, that was something that I was going to have to work for years to pay off. This was a big luxury to be able to travel overseas, coming from the roots that I come from. And so it was this idea in my mind, like, that's just something she's never going to see. So when we were in Yellowstone and we were trapped in a bison herd for 4 hours, I was like, well, at least she's had, this is very similar.
Yeah.
We have the U.S. national parks do offer these really epic, we forget, because we're from here, so we don't think of it as exotic, but yeah, to be able to go to the Lamar Valley and be immersed in this massive herd of bison is a thrill for people that come from all over the world to see that. And so I was like, no, I've got that. I have that piece. Like, she got to see that, and she's never seen a cheetah hunting in Africa like I have, but she got to watch coyotes hunt for prairie dogs at Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota. So there's like, there was some peace in that for me. And so then to suddenly find myself, in 2 months after we finished the U.S. National Park goal in Kenya together, and and I'm taking her to all these parks that I got to see, and she got to watch a cheetah hunting, and she got to watch the migration of zebras across the Maasai River, and so it came full circle, and then there's always the possibility for more if you are set on doing that and keep hope alive. It's hard to imagine where you can go in life, but yeah, it's wild. I never thought in a million years that I would be in Africa with my grandmother at age 91, and that she would be dancing with the Maasai with me, and all these things that happened. So that was a really beautiful trip. Do you want to talk about Africa?
Oh, it was great. We just saw animals everywhere, and got chased by an elephant. The guy said, "Hurry and get in the truck. Here comes an elephant." I thought, well, that'd be something weird. So we did that, and then we saw we had all kind of monkeys and all kinds of. And when we were back to our camp, they were hanging from the trees and just carrying on. And what was those things that was running around on the ground?
Oh, those were mongoose.
Yeah, mongoose. And then he decided to get in the bathwater in the swimming pool. It was really.
Oh, that was a warthog. A warthog got in our pool.
Oh, wow.
They were like, "Hi, you feel like taking a swim
Yeah,
now,
and
Grandma?"
he lay down like, "Oh, this is really great. I like it."
Like, you have had so many experiences and adventures. Like, I know that it's got to be hard to have a favorite one, but if each of you had a memory that you would definitely like want to save and want to be able to share with people, for each of you, which would that be?
And you're talking about the whole,
about the whole experience, all the trips.
So U.S. national parks and international trips combined. What's been like the biggest cherry on top? Your favorite memory? She can't even answer what her favorite park is.
I think the biggest thrill we had is when we went to Africa, and I didn't know there were so many different kinds of animals, and it was amazing. It really was. I can't get over telling people about how great it was, and if I never get to do anything else, that was the trip I really enjoyed.
Something that stands out for me about that trip was that when I went to Kenya as a 19 20-year-old, almost 20-year-old guy, I had legitimate culture shock seeing the poverty, seeing just everything was so, it was an entirely different world in every way. And, you know, the more you travel, the more you understand that the world is a million things, and you should always expect something new and different. And so your culture, at least for me, I don't experience culture shock anymore. But this was her first time seeing the same situation that I had. And yes, Kenya has changed a lot. Africa has been socioeconomically rising up over the last 2 decades. So you see more, like, you have cell phone service in the Masai Mara. Like you can update your Instagram in the middle of the Masai Mara. That would have been completely same. I mean, that was unheard of 20 years ago. So it's a different world, but a lot of things have stayed the same. And what struck me was I remember being in that Maasai village when I was 19 and seeing, you know, this boma where everybody is walking around their village with the goats and the cattle all running around, and everybody's barefoot and in the mud and the muck, and you know, seeing that kind of convergence of wildlife, livestock, and people is a big part of why I wanted to go to veterinary school and study diseases that move between animals and people and all that stuff. But anyway, long story short, we end up in a different Maasai village, but it, you know, similar in many ways. And I remember I was watching to see what her reaction to all of that would be. And I'm glad I have video of it, because she just walked amongst the Maasai with such ease. And I asked her, you know, how does this make you feel? And she said this, you know, she grew up in a house that was a converted chicken coop, you know, and she had an outhouse and no electricity, and they had to boil water on a fire and pour it into the bathtub to wash up. And, you know, she lived through the Great Depression. And so it wasn't jarring to her to see that kind of lifestyle.
Felt like I was home.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a beautiful thing to be able to see.
Yeah, and they might be poor, but they don't know it. Everybody's cheerful. They always wear bright colored dresses and everything, orange and red, and all the little kids are laughing and jumping and running around. They don't know they're poor.
And she didn't either, you know.
So
it's absolutely true.
really great.
We've had the
1 second. Go ahead, Patrick.
we've had the opportunity to go to Kenya twice.
Oh, okay.
And I had the same experience, like from an Americanized perspective. You know, we see like poor, poverty, whatever. But these kids are some of the most joyful, loving, alive humans that I've ever met. And I was just really taken aback. And they were not only like caring and gentle with us, they were like protective of us, like, you know, watching out for our stuff. Like it was a really, really like humbling experience, if I'm being fully honest. Because I challenged like any sort of preconceived notions that I had walking in. So I totally, I get what you're saying. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very humbling to be able to, you think about even the things that I complain about, you know, whatever it is, something that's going on at work, you know, whatever it may be. And then you realize that there are people whose day-to-day reality is that they're going to get up and they're going to leave their village, with a large walking stick, and they're going to meander through wild Africa with their herd of cattle, always being on alert for an elephant or a buffalo that may be hiding, waiting to ambush them. And that's scarier to them than if they come face to face with a lion, because a lion is something that you can be brave enough to confront, and they won't, as long as you don't run, they're not going to attack you. So the lion, we would rather see a lion today on foot than potentially something that really could kill me. And so I've got to be able to always stand downwind and use my sense of smell and hearing to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, they talk about that so matter of factly, just as if I was saying, I get up and make a cup of coffee and then I drive to work and sometimes I'm in traffic. I mean, but that is their day-to-day circumstance. And so you just, I mean, it just completely, it completely opens up your life when you can travel and experience new cultures, and also look at what real bravery is, look at what real hardship is, and that if they can do that with a smile on their face, then you can do better as well.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. It's such a powerful experience. It's to get to travel like really anywhere and getting to see that humanity exists outside of your house, outside of your hometown, outside of your state, and how vastly different it is. I want to hear more about your international travels, but we're going to take a quick little break here to hear from some of our fantastic sponsors. So we'll be right back.
Locust Yoga creates mats and towels designed to support your yoga practice and build meaningful connections. Their designs foster connection, bringing people together to create spaces and shared growth and understanding. They also focus on intentional community, providing tools to support your journey and mark meaningful moments with purpose. Find them on Instagram at locustyoga.shop or on the web at locustyoga.shop. And here's a deal just for you. For a limited time, buy any mat and get a free towel with code OUTDOORS. Locust Yoga, because yoga is more than a practice, it's a connection. At LGBT Outdoors, we're thrilled to have Montucky Cold Snacks back in our mission. Montucky supports our passion for making the outdoors a welcoming space for everyone, and they've been supporting nonprofits across our country since 2012. After an epic day on the trail, nothing beats a cold, snackable Montucky beer. So get outside, enjoy the adventure, do some good, and raise a Montucky to inclusivity and the great outdoors.
All right, welcome back to the LGBTQ Outdoors podcast. We're here getting to talk with Brad, Ryan, and Grandma Joy from Grandma Joy's Road Trip. So we were just talking about visiting Kenya, and now we're going to switch to one of their other international adventures, their trip to Antarctica. So a little bit different climate. Slightly. So like, how did all that come about?
It was, I think, when we got back from the Galapagos, every trip that we've done, it ends up getting publicity. So it's just, like I said, it's a very privileged kind of life we've been living the last few years. And so a representative from HX Expeditions reached out and said, we have 2 or 3 people that we invite to go to Antarctica every year, and we want to help you on your goal because it's the hardest continent to reach, and you can get that checked off your list. And so it was an invitation that we were very happy to accept, and it's a very, very, very long journey to get down there, especially with someone who's 94. So we flew to Buenos Aires, and from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, we got to do some hiking in Patagonia, which was, that's another, I have to get back down there at some point. And then it's 2 days across the Drake Passage from Ushuaia, which is the southernmost city in the entire world. And that was the wild card, because I don't know if you've heard of it, but that 2 days across the ocean on the Drake Passage is what makes or breaks a trip for a lot of people, because it can be wild, I guess. Very, very turbulent waves. We had our Dramamine on board, but it turned out to be 5% of what it could be, and we got that good fortune there and back. Because
nice,
good luck charm, I guess. Yes. But yeah, you travel for 2 days across the ocean, and then you wake up, and I opened the curtain. I stepped out onto the balcony of our cabin, and you were just in this. As well traveled as I am, there's still places that you visit that make you feel like you're not on planet Earth.
Mm.
And this is definitely one of them. When you see penguins swimming around in the water below you, and you're looking out at these icebergs and this just seemingly untouched landscape of glaciers and snow-covered mountains, and wherever you travel, that's what it is. There's no restaurant, there's no gas station, there's no civilization. It's just you and your traveling crew through this just this epic untouched land. It's a huge landscape. We got to see a fraction of it, but it was, everything that we saw was mind-blowingly beautiful. Icebergs that were bigger than our boat.
Oh,
Wow. Our ship.
So, like,
first time I've ever been on a big ship like that. And, oh my gosh, seemed like all we did was eat. There's
all right.
time to eat again. Oh my word. But there was a lot of people on there. And then we got to see all the little animals.
Yeah, really the most incredible thing about Antarctica is that you're out there with just the wildlife. So if you're lucky, you see elephant seals, leopard seals, things like that. We saw a lot of humpback whales, some minke whales. It was nonstop whales. Like that's all we saw. And then of course penguins everywhere. And I forget how many species are down there, but we saw three different species while we were making our way around the mainland down there. So yeah, do you want to talk about some of your penguin encounters?
Oh, the little penguins, they like to follow one another and look like little soldiers marching around there. And then if they get too hot, they flap their wings. I thought, well, how in the world could you get too hot? That's all it is out there. But really, I didn't think it was any colder in Ohio. We get 19 degrees below zero. And so it didn't feel to me like it was any colder than there. But we had them darn boots on, and they must have weighed 10 pounds apiece. Yeah. It was awful. I'm telling you, I was glad to get out of them contraptions.
Yeah.
Got to keep your toes warm, though.
They gave you like a lot of supplies and equipment for this, right? As far as like coats.
Yeah,
and
everything is very
everything.
Yeah, because they won't let anybody take their own boots or their own hiking pools or anything like that onto the mainland, because it's a very well protected ecosystem, and they want to make sure that no invasive species are being introduced. So we only use their equipment so that it's everything's thoroughly washed and protected. And so, because they just don't want us to introduce, it could happen, there are a variety of pathogens that could be brought in from another part of the world, and they would be completely naive to it.
Yeah, and then when you come back, you have to go and wash your boots off in this sanitary
water solution. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't have even thought about that.
Yeah. It's a lot of
getting off the
ship and getting into what can't I remember the name of it? Zodiac, a little Zodiac boat, like a little rubber boat that's motorized. And then
and the sides was that big around, and my legs ain't that long. So somebody give me a push.
That's funny. Grandma Joy, what was your favorite part about Antarctica?
Yeah, the favorite thing that you got to see and do in Antarctica.
Well, them little penguins, because we never seen this around here.
Yeah. Well, we got trapped on opposite sides of so a lot of what we did were, there are a lot of islands that are off the coast of mainland Antarctica, but one day we actually stepped foot on the mainland, and there were questions surrounding whether or not she's the oldest person that's ever stepped foot on the Antarctic mainland. We'll never know the answer to that question, but whatever. But it's not a normal thing for a 94-year-old to be walking around on the Antarctic mainland. And we had to climb up this little hill where all the penguins were. And of course, you have to keep distance between where you're standing and where the penguins are walking back and forth. So when there was an opportunity for me to walk to the other side of the Penguin Highway, which is just a path in the snow, so I could get some photos of her. then like this, just one after another, these penguins just would not stop. So we got trapped on opposite sides of the penguin highway. And then her legs locked up, her knees locked up from standing so tensely for so long. And that led to a whole debacle trying to get her back down the hill back into the Zodiac boat. So like I said, like but I was just so grateful that she was there. And I always know, like when we have these little setbacks, that as bad as it may look at any given moment, that as soon as we get some food in her belly and get her warmed up and everything, that she bounces right back. At least her attitude does. So it was just like, I was like, this is not a normal situation for like, to be trapped on another side of a path because the penguins won't stop coming through, and they're like preventing you from getting back to your 94-year-old grandmother who's like quickly decompensating on the other side of the penguin highway. But I mean, it was, but what a privilege it was to just even to step foot on that continent, and they said that there are only 2 million people in the world who've ever been there, which is like way less than, I think it's like 0.02%. I can't,
Jeez.
Of the entire global population, out of the 8.1 billion people that are on Earth, only 2 million have been to Antarctica. So it was it's just, I was very, very, and I've been that way for many years since we started traveling together. Like I never take for granted when I'm someplace new that I'll ever see it again. So I really tried to be, grateful and present throughout that entire experience, because it was such I mean, even if it, even if hours and hours and hours would go by, I would just sit there and stare at this world that was passing by, because I just didn't know if I would ever see it again.
Well, yeah, because it's, I mean, by and large, untouched. Even like the national parks, which are great for their natural beauty, there's still a certain level of like, manicuring and curating of paths and roads and all that stuff. And that's not to negate that or the importance of national parks. But when you're on Antarctica, like it's as it has always been, basically, with like next to zero trace of humanity.
Right.
Like, how does that make you feel when you're there, just sitting and watching, like realizing that I'm about as far away from other humans as I can possibly get?
Well, I mean, I think that's, like I said, because it was so, you're conscious of how far and how many legs of travel it has taken to get you to that point. And then your everyday reality is that there's we're not seeing very many cruise ships down here. This is in a world where humans have infiltrated every corner of the earth, it seems. There are a handful of places where the wildlife doesn't react with fear because they haven't been under threat by humanity, because there's so few of us that are down there. And the ones that are there are just pointing these funny contraptions at them, all day long. And so I don't. For me, it was so remote, and it was so different than. I mean, even compared to Alaska, you see glaciers and everything in Alaska, but it is wild in a way that nothing else can compare. And that is what there's something about being in a space like that really gets you in touch with your aliveness, for lack of a better word. Just that, life is really miraculous. Like this is like life on planet Earth is really a special, crazy opportunity, this conscious existence that we have. And so I think that's the way I felt down there.
I just felt like it was so peaceful and quiet. You could hear your own heartbeat practically. There wasn't any noise whatsoever.
Yep.
It was just amazing to sit there and think, well, I can't hear a thing. Because when you're in no matter where you are, there's always somebody banging, cracking, or something.
Yeah.
But when we were there, it was just so peaceful and quiet, and you can kind of talk to yourself and get your soul underneath the control, I guess. But it was really, really great. It really was.
What a gift.
I love that. And
We're going to be there again.
that's something, the noise is something that we probably don't even think about. Like, I know, I've been out into the woods after it snowed and it's so quiet and peaceful. But like, that's got to be a whole nother level since there's no highways and buildings and people. Like,
it's such a different world. And we only got to see it, like I said, we're seeing it from the water, but I imagine flying over it or being on a snowmobile or whatever it may be would be even more, even more grand. But it was fun. One of the people who we met on that trip, we became very good friends with her. Her name was Suniva Sorbi, and she was part of the first all women's group that journeyed to the South Pole, and they did it on with just cross country skiing and pulling their supplies on their sled, and she and 3 women made it all the way to the South Pole together, and she's the godmother of the particular ship that we were on with HX Expeditions, and anyway, amazing.
How cool.
Yeah. And so like, I just love connecting to people that have that hunger for adventure. Even it doesn't have to be that extreme, but that's what's so special about the community that you've created too, is that we have both of these deeply fundamental things in common about us. Like we have a similar lens on the world, and that we, through the adversity that we've shared different variations of the same theme, but through the adversity that we've experienced in this community, that we've all found an opportunity for growth and for healing in these outdoor spaces. That's what everybody experienced at the Outdoor Fest last year, and every year. That was my first one, but there was a morning that happened when we all had to go home because it was almost utopia. Not only in terms of the scenery, but also just that belonging that was so immediate, that sense of belonging and psychological safety that we had there. So, you find that connection with anybody who loves the great outdoors, but when you bring it together with our unique lens on life, it makes it even more important, I think.
Definitely so. And I mean, you mentioned, LGBTQ Outdoor Fest. You were an instructor last year, and we're planning on having you back with Grandma Joy for this year. So,
do you remember last year they thought she was going to jump out of a?
Yes,
yeah, they thought she was a surprise guest.
Out of a cake or something.
That did not happen, but we did surprise them with a drag queen last year.
Right,
so that was fun. But looking ahead with Grandma Joy's road trip, what do you see the future, or any plans that you have in the future?
So the 2 plans that we have right now, one of them is that when I was so let me try to get to the point. I have trouble with this. So I'm a wildlife veterinarian by training. I haven't worked in that world for a while, but I was in Malawi during my 4th year of vet school. After we had done our Smokies trip, I went back to Africa and I worked at the Cheetah Conservation Fund in Namibia, and I worked for the Longway Wildlife Center in Malawi, and I met a really amazing wildlife vet. Her Instagram handle is the Jungle Doctor, and we've maintained a very close friendship over the years. And she reached out to me not long ago, and I've never announced this publicly, so you guys are the first ones to hear this, but we're going on we have a really crazy adventure planned for this summer. So we are going to go to South Africa, and we're going to load up some rhinos at a game farm, and we're going to move them across country and release them into a national park. And so,
wow!
So now Grandma Joy's road trip is involved in rhino relocation.
Do you got room for an extra person on that trip?
If you need a documentary crew,
yeah, there will be spaces available for people to join us. So we need about 5,000. We're trying to raise about $5,000 per rhino, and it's very, relatively speaking, it's pretty easy to breed rhinos in captivity when they have an outdoor space and they have a bit of freedom and they're happy and content. They'll breed, and they'll make lots of babies over time. And so we don't have an issue with breeding rhinos. We have an issue with having safe places for them to be able to be reintroduced without being sitting ducks to poachers. And so the infrastructure is there, the security is in place for these rhinos to be reintroduced. So that's what we're going to be doing this summer. And then our first Asia trip is going to be in September. It doesn't conflict with outdoor.
I was just like, wait a minute.
We've had a few people ask, like, are you sure they're going to be able to make it to LGBTQ Outdoor Fest then if they're going to Asia? Like,
we have a busy fall. Yeah. So we're heading to Borneo, the island of Borneo in Malaysia.
Amazing.
To see the pygmy elephants and the orangutans and all the spectacular endemic wildlife of that part of the world. So that leaves Australia and New Zealand. So we'll figure that out hopefully next year. There's too much going on.
It's coming
and
up.
I'm writing a book at the same time. So like this year is like, it's amazing that I'm not like full head gray.
Yeah. And so if anybody's interested in coming to Outdoor Fest, just go to our website and you can meet Brad and Grandma Joy in person. But then also in October, Brad and another one of our team members, Oded, are leading a trip to Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And we have information about that as well. So there's opportunities to get connected in person with Brad for sure. But I always love listening to you and connecting with you. We love you both very much. And wrapping up, I'd just kind of love to hear some final thoughts from you and Grandma Joy. Just anything that you would like to share that maybe you want people to take away from your experiences. I know, like you mentioned that you went viral. I don't know if people really realize how much. I think that's an understatement, because I don't know if there's a news source that you haven't been on around the world. The Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, just like
USA
Today, Tamara Hall, you've been on 2 or 3 times. So like you are living this life that a lot of people get to see. I'm just kind of wondering what message you would love people to take away from all of this.
Well, I think I briefly hit upon this when I don't remember. I kind of went out of my body that night when you guys asked me to get up and speak at the end of or around the campfire that night. But I think a lot about, especially having met everybody at Outdoor Fest last year. It was an intergenerational community, which was beautiful to see. And one thing that I just encourage people, I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm in my mid 40s now, so I'm kind of in that like in between zone. But one thing that I've noticed through the years, whether it's at a gay bar or any type of LGBT space, is that that you do see people that as they age within this community, my perception is that as we get older in this community, sometimes we become more invisible. And it's we have that on the heterosexual side of things too. Like we have an overall, in the United States, we have this overall cultural norm around, out of sight, out of mind. We don't want to look at the older generation, whether that's because it makes us feel like it's a visual reminder of where we're heading, and that creates some sort of discomfort or whatever it may be. But I just encourage people to have, to the best of your abilities, empathy comes easier to some than others, but to have empathy of what that would feel like to age and be a part of a society that no longer sees you. And I did not experience that at Outdoor Fest, but I think that's my kind of call to action, is just understanding that like we're all, if we're lucky enough to live that long, that's where we're all going to end up. And do we want to do we want to live long enough to then become invisible to others? That's something that we have control over, whether that's inviting people along for the ride, people that use, and we can do that for each other in our own community. I believe that capacity exists with a much greater likelihood, especially within our LGBTQ plus outdoor community, to make sure that we're always linking up and locking arms with people across the generational divide. That's something that we can model for people in their teens and their 20s, so that, you know, as we're moving up, that's seen as that's just what you do. We don't forget our own, and we bring people along for the ride. So that's important to me, and I'll probably be speaking about that in some way, shape, or form this fall. Grandma, what's your message to the world? This is your platform. Give us some Grandma Joy advice.
Well, try to stay positive, because no matter your circumstances, there's always people worse than you. So enjoy life as you go along. So try to look up, not down. And if somebody asks you to go somewhere, don't say no.
Golden advice.
Great advice. Great advice. Do you have any final thoughts, Patrick, that you want to hit on before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for using your collective experience and platform for being a voice for good, and being a voice for authenticity, and being a voice for being willing to accept a challenge. Because all those things I think are in short supply. Yeah. And, the fact that you get to explore with compassion and curiosity, and you share that with the world, is really, it's really something else. So, like, just personally, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we appreciate being a part of this family, and it's going to be a really great fall for us to be able to share the Great Smoky Mountains with those who want to come and be a part of that. And then for everybody else, I was very, very, a lot of people don't have a grandmother figure like Grandma Joy. I'm very fortunate that I do, not just because, not very few people get to live to be 95, and to have a grandmother who's very has always been very independently open-minded about diversity, and create and having love and compassion for marginalized communities such as ours. So I hope that those people who don't have that in their life, that they'll find some comfort and inspiration in meeting her this fall. She's tipped a few drag queens in her day. So.
Love that.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
So she'll be ready if we should have an encore of Shantae, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Shantae is planning on being back. And we haven't officially said that anywhere yet, so people are getting to find out now. No, she wasn't. We're not going to do it as a surprise this year. That was just a surprise last year, but she's planning on being back. We're definitely doing Pride Night again, and it's going to be amazing time in September. So we're excited that you're going to be there. How can people find out more about you and follow you on your journey?
So the best way is to follow us at Grandma Joy's Road Trip on Instagram, and we have a Grandma Joy's Road Trip account on Facebook, but they're linked. So that's the best way. If anybody wants to get in touch with me about the Great Smoky Mountains National Park expedition that we have planned this fall, you can reach out to me at my personal email, which is Brad Ryan DVM. D as in dog, V as in Victor, M as in Massachusetts, or I guess Doctor of Veterinary Medicine is easier. That's what it is. That's what it stands for. So bradryandvm@gmail.com. And if you have questions about the itinerary or your ability to do these hikes and so forth, just reach out to me and we'll chat about it. But I hope we have a full crew.
Yeah, me too. Well,
and you guys might be there too, right?
We're hoping. We're hoping so. Yeah.
Good.
So, it's been a pleasure to have you both on the podcast again. As always, I'm so excited you have become like family to LGBTQ Outdoors and to us, and I'm so excited for the future and everything that we're going to be doing together. So it's going to be a great year.
It's going to be a great year too. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
It was great to talk to you, nice young man. I'll tell you that.
Oh, thank you. You too. It was great talking to you as well. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in again to the LGBTQ Outdoors podcast. To learn anything about us, go over to the website, lgbtqoutdoors.com. Check it out. You can see all of our events we have coming up. Sign up for our newsletter. If you really love what we're doing, join the Trailblazer Society and become a monthly partner with us and help us make the outdoors a more diverse and inclusive space for everyone. And until next time, get out there. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the LGBT Outdoors podcast. You can catch up on past episodes on your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Stay connected with us on Instagram at LGBT Outdoors and join our vibrant community at facebook.com/groups/LGBT Outdoors. Support our mission to promote LGBTQ+ inclusion in the outdoors by becoming a member of the Trailblazer Society at lgbtoutdoors.com/trailblazers. For more information about LGBT Outdoors, LGBT Outdoor Fest, local chapters, adventure trips, or to sign up for a newsletter, head to lgbtoutdoors.com. If you're enjoying the episode, don't forget to rate, review, and follow us. Your support makes a difference.